Greetings, sports entertainment enthusiasts! This is CAW Acadian champion Homeless Bob, and you are currently watching Wrestle Geek's Recaps, catching you up on AEW Dynamite, NXT, and so very much more.
Welcome everybody to Wrestle Geek's Recaps. We are doing New Japan today. I am joined, as always, by Team Tiger Driver Radio. I have with me Juicy J.
What's up, everybody? This is Juicy J.
I also have JP with me.
I don't know what's wrong with Juicy J, but I'm normal.
As always, we also have L Blue.
Yo, what's up? I think Juicy J just went through puberty.
I did. In a minute.
He's back to normal. His balls went back up.
All three of them are joining us from Texas, and I am your host from Canada, the Geek Trevor Firth. So, guys, we had some great matches happen in New Japan this week. The Cup second and third round were fantastic. I had a lot of fun with pretty much everything. I have no major complaints about it. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed this week as much as I did.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the match, especially the one I'm going to be talking about. It was interesting going through some of the matches this week. Yeah.
I had a hard time picking mine this week, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But before we start, I want to give a shout out to Adam Robbins, who has hit the ad for his CD is the outro to all of our videos here in Wrestle Geeks. He is a local maritime hip-hop artist who has just released his album Hip Hop Heals. I just got my copy in the mail recently. It's awesome. Please, people, check it out. I have the description, all the details in the description down below. But let's get some business. New Japan Strong, March 12th. We got a couple more qualifying matches for Strong Style Evolved.
Yeah.
But this episode started with like the other episode, started with a promo between Rosser and Kratos.
Mm-hmm.
So New Japan is implementing the. We'll see a little later too. New Japan is starting to implement the story stuff a little bit better than what they were before. Like since we started doing these episodes, they've already improved. Because they didn't do a lot of these before. But roster was fine. Kratos, I enjoyed it. I thought Kratos' promo was actually a little bit better than Rosser's, just because Kratos just has that intimidating, imposing factor for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have anything to say about the promos.
No, the promos I liked. I'm hopefully they continue using those promos or that style of starting with promos because it's entertaining for me. It's cool. The promos, yeah. I don't know. I like Rosser's better. I guess I like more the charisma he has more than Kratos, but
he's starting to grow on me. But
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not big on him yet.
I feel the same way, Trevor. I think
regarding Fred Rozier.
Yeah.
Yeah, on his promo in the beginning, yeah.
Well, the thing is about Fred Rozier is that the one thing that whether you've been ever lukewarm about him, especially when he was with when WWE in a tag team with Titus O'Neil, I feel like the one thing that he does have above everyone else in New Japan Strong, for the most part, is, well, he came from the land of sports entertainment where promos are everything and everything's more about character development rather than in-ring performance. I always felt that Fred Rozier always had potential to be better than what he was. You could see glimpses of it here, especially when he had that rivalry with the New Day early on in his run as a tag team guy. But I feel like he has potential to be somebody, or to kind of be like a flagship star on the American side of the New Japan roster. I don't necessarily know how well he will translate in terms of wrestling, over on the mainland. But as far as strong style evolved and everything that's happening on the American side of the company, I think he'll work. I think he's going to be a very good pillar for this side of the roster.
You know what I think?
No days off. Go ahead, man. Sorry.
You know what I think bothers me about Fred the most? Because he looks great. Like, he's good, great physical shape. I think it's the name. Like, Fred Roser or Rosser. Just to me, it's just like, I don't know. It's it fails my name test, but
yeah, because you can't say it. Who knows how to say it?
I think it's Fred Rosser. I don't know if it's Roser or Rosser.
Rozier?
Rozier. No. I don't know. It fails my name because I think he hits all the good points, and then it's like the name is like Fred. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not the most intimidating name to me, but I think that's what bothers me the most about him. But no, but yeah, moving on.
I will, like, last thing, I will primetime players. Like, him and Title Neil were a great tag team. That I did enjoy their run as champions. So I mean, like, and he was saddled with Bob Backlund, and he had good promos. You know, when he was stuck with Bob Backlund, and he was doing good promos. Because at that time, Bob Backlund should not have been on TV. That's how I feel about that. But first match of the night, we got Barrett Brown and Adrian Quest versus Sterling and Logan Regal. Now, the story of this match is, again, they played it back, the little segment we had for Barrett Brown after his last match, reminding us that, like, he needs this win, and he's getting frustrated, and he's getting desperate. We had the twins come out wearing the mask, like Brody King again. This time they were wearing these shirts that were they're fake tattoo shirts. I will admit they looked pretty good compared to a lot of the type of shirts like that I've seen. But like Kozlov going like, "Are those real? Oh my god!" I was just like, "Dude, shut up."
Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. Looking back at the pictures, I was like, "Oh my god, were those like? Did they get a full tattoo? They didn't have this before." But now I see that it's a shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, for one of those shirts, they look really good. I just Kozlov just kept. It's too much for me. A little too much. Rein it in. But it's a great, fast-paced match. But ultimately, the story is that Barrett Brown's impatience, his frustration, it's getting to him, and it's making him make mistakes. He's arrogant. He starts yelling at Adrian Quest at some point, multiple times actually throughout the match, if I'm not mistaken. And the Regal twins are twins. They're on point. They don't argue. They barely even communicate. They just do shit in unison, right? So I mean, they were looking good at some point. Adrian Quest did some great offense. It looked like they were right about to pull the win. Barrett Brown takes the time to yell at Adrian Quest. So when he goes to pick up, I don't remember which one of the Regal twins it was, but when he goes to pick him up, the twin reverses it and ends up rolling up Barrett Brown for the win. So he comes out with another loss at the end of this because of himself this time. So ultimately, I liked it because I love the twins. They're fascinating to watch right now. I like watching them grow. But guys, go ahead.
Yeah, the twins are cool. I don't know. I think we talked about this last week of exactly which way they're going with this whole Brody King thing. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. This whole faction or stable they're gonna make. I mean, it sounds cool, but again, I don't know where that's going. It seems like they're just having fun, which is a good thing. Adrian Quest, I thought it was cool that he had on his attire, he had a picture of Selena in his attire, which is the Hispanic pop star that died a long time ago. That was cool for us from Texas, since she's from here. So I thought that was cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
And then Barrett Brown, I know JP New Japan's long-term booking, but with Barrett Brown, I'm not too familiar with his work, but I'm not sure if he's a guy that you would do that long-term booking as far as him having problems and trying to win and he can't. I'm not sure he's the right guy for this. I don't know what you think. If because I think they should have chosen somebody else for that kind of long-term storyline, maybe like ACH or somebody else. But I don't know what you guys think.
I think there could have been somebody else that could have been placed in that position of like, okay, they're a great wrestler, but they just can't seem to. It's kind of like for the longest time there was that whole story that I apologize, I'm kind of going on a blank here for a second, but Hiroki Goto. I remember like several years ago, Hiroki Goto was on a big losing streak and just could not get it together, and then people were kind of calling him. They were calling him Mr. Almost, like he's Mr. Almost. He gets there, but he can never finish the job. And then finally, he was able to win the never open weight, and he went to have like an awesome program against Minoru Suzuki. And I feel like when it comes to doing the kind of whole underdog where they're kind of struggling on the roster, I don't really see him telling that story. I think there's other wrestlers on the roster. Like I'm a big personal fan of Ren Narita kind of coming out on his own now and actually winning. I would say it's that energy on building him up and kind of like him losing some, winning some. I mean, the fact that, like I said, several weeks ago when he went over on Chris Dickinson, that was like shocking, but also such a way to build him up as he is no longer going to be that young lion anymore. Like really soon, he's no longer that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. I feel like they could focus that energy on somebody else, anybody else.
Yeah, which is weird here. They're doing it on him, but I guess they had to choose somebody.
I will say, they're doing it with him as a heel, though, not as a face.
Right.
They're not really doing like an underdog thing for me. For me, they're doing like just pure desperation and pure like I see him joining a faction to get himself that win. You know what I mean? I see him making alliances. Kind of going like, because like I don't know why this is where I went with it, but like Kenny Omega, seeing that being in a faction was the difference between him and Prince Devitt at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that could be it. Like for maybe they're trying something along those lines because he is a heel, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or he plays a heel really well, and he's transitioning to one if he's not already one. So that's where I see it going, possibly. I find that an interesting storyline.
Yeah, I guess from your point, I mean, they do need heels. They don't have as many.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Blue? Oh, sorry, man.
That kind of goes to kind of talk about how we don't have enough heels, in New Japan Strong. Me personally, I don't really know why they're kind of pairing, why they're paying Brody with this group of like random guys and kind of mentoring them, especially when he came off of the heels off of Villain Enterprises that unfortunately had to end for obvious reasons. But I would personally keep building Brody King as a monster. Keep building him as that monster that is coming after you. And you don't necessarily have to put him in the title picture. Like I said, even if you go back to the 80s when you had Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody was not always in the world title picture. Matter of fact, more often than not, he wasn't in the title picture. But anytime he stepped in that room, he would beat the hell out of everybody. And that includes the world champion. Even if he lost, he still looks strong. And I feel like don't waste your time on building a faction around Brody King. Let Brody King be that monster. Me personally, why not have him eventually take the title off of Moxley? Basically a bigger guy that Moxley can't overcome. Why not? Do long-term booking like that. He already went through Kenta. You might as well start building for that next match because it's going to be overdue anytime now.
Suppose.
That's true.
Blue, did you have anything on the tag match on the story here?
No, I think New Japan Strong is just trying to give everybody something to do with the Barrett Brown story. I think they're just kind of playing with that until it's like, okay, finally he's gonna pop and join Team Filthy or start his own stable or whatever comes out of that. The thing with the Brody faction, I still don't get it. It's like they wear like executioner masks, but then they like take them right off. So it's like we'll see. I mean, it's only been like 2 weeks that they've done this, right? I think they started last week with ACH and Brody.
Yeah.
Where ACH wore the mask the entire time.
Yeah.
They had an 8-man tag, with all 4 of them coming out wearing the mask.
Yeah, so we still haven't seen like where this is going, but it's interesting just to see him come in and they're wearing like the executioner's mask, and now they're wearing these shirts with tattoos on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I think it's kind of silly, you know.
Well, maybe it's because you know how ACH is a One Piece fan. Maybe he's just like trying to do like One Piece, just a bunch of random people together doing stuff.
I love One Piece.
Yeah.
A sidebar, you know, this is kind of a little off topic, but for those of you that are fans of Brody King, you need to check out his band God's Hate. Holy shit, amazing metalcore.
That's true.
If you're a fan of hardcore punk, if you're a fan of metalcore, go listen to his band. That's the band that's playing his intro now, is God's Hate. Where he's the front man of his own band. And they've released albums before, but they just released an album last month, and that shit shreds. Go and support Brody King. God's Hate, really. Listen to that band. So good.
Before we move on, I think they only need a promo. I think Brody King just needs to deliver a single promo. And I think everything will be fixed when it comes to this. So hopefully we get that soon.
Like,
there's a qualifying match coming next week. Hopefully we'll get that.
Yeah.
But second match of the night is a qualifying match between Jordan Clearwater and Hikuleo.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed this match because this is like one of those classic pretty boy technical guys versus just a pure brute powerhouse, right? And I really like those kind of matches. They're always fun to watch for me. Clearwater he's kind of a guilty pleasure at this point. I'll be honest, because he's not like, he's good. He's technically sound, but he doesn't really do anything incredible. But I'm kind of just sitting here waiting for something to happen with him. You know what I mean? Like, I have a feeling like he could be really good. I'm hoping that he reaches that potential. Maybe it's just me. But the match ends after Hikuleo hits a very beautiful snap power slam on Clearwater. Clearwater kicks out, but only to be picked up into a Death Valley that Hikuleo lands with his leg on top of Clearwater to land it into a pinning position to win the match. And that's a cool variation on the Death Valley. I really liked it. I really like it a lot.
Yeah. It is a cool move. I like this match. I have to agree with you. You're right. The Clearwater versus Hikuleo is just a little guy versus big guy match, which is cool. Clearwater does have the potential to be, I don't know, like a maybe TJP kind of a level, and hopefully he exceeds that because I think he does have that potential.
Well, quickly, I don't know if you know, but he did wrestle Nick Aldis for the NWA title at the end of 2020, and that was a really good match.
Yeah,
I think that's the moment that I started to like really pay attention to him. So
yeah.
Sorry, definitely. Just want to throw that in.
No, that's a good stat. I mean, he's a great wrestler, and Hikuleo. He still needs some work, but I like him just being a beast. Seems like that's how they're going to use him. So good stuff.
Yeah. Blue, JP.
Like my whole thing, like I said, it goes back to what I said. I think at this point, the only thing Hikuleo needs is just time. He just needs more time. Clearly, his excursion in England went well for him. I think it did serve him well in terms of how to work the ring, in another style. But I think, in my opinion, and he's done a little bit, he just needs to bulk up. That's it. Just time and bulking up and just, getting better. Because like I said, just like when his brother was a young lion in like 2010, 11, 12, and even when he first joined the Bullet in 2013, he wasn't anything special. And then now look at him. I mean, he's one of the best tag team, technicians. And I would even say promos, in the business right now. So who's to say what the future holds for Hikuleo?
Yeah.
I think just time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hikuleo could definitely be like the this big monster heel in Strong and maybe in New Japan at some point. I'm glad to finally see him get a win. I feel like I haven't seen him win in a while, and for such a big guy, it's like he needs to start, racking up those wins to gain that intimidation factor and that like legitness in the ring. Um, Jordan Clearwater, I think, I mean, he has great potential because he can be a face, but he also looks like a heel too. So it's like he can go either way from here. I think right now he's playing the face, but I think if they let him develop himself as a heel, he could be a very good heel because he just has like a good look on to him. That's what I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
His gimmick is that I don't know if it's a gimmick or if it's real life, but like they mentioned on commentary that he's like a bank manager by day. I mean,
Really
with Britt Baker being a real life dentist, you never know anymore, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to tell what's a gimmick, what's real.
There was a period of time where, like back in the '90s, like every wrestler had a job gimmick,
Yeah.
and then now, when people say, like, "Oh, by the way, this guy happens to sing in a band," or "Oh, this person happens to be a dentist," no, that's what they
That's
do.
real life, yeah.
That's what they do. Like, wrestling is not the only paycheck they get.
You know what Jordan looks like? He looks like a choir boy to me. Like, and then the Clearwater name makes him seem like he's some sort of like religious thing. But
Goody two shoes. I feel like he could be like a youth Christian camp counselor.
that's a terrible gimmick.
But it's
Uh,
better than Liberian. I don't like
yeah.
that Liberian
I-
gimmick.
If they do decide to implement his banking job, they should have a storyline where he denies a loan to someone, and then they have to wrestle for it, put it on a pole match.
He denies a loan against Toru Yano because he doesn't want to fund his next venture.
There we go.
That's
See,
right.
we're already writing storylines here.
You're welcome.
Our third match of the night, the main event of Strong, is Fred Rosser versus Jr Kratos. This is okay. This match was really good, but if we didn't just see the same size dynamic, and if we didn't just see the same finish in the tag team match, this match would have been it would have stood out way more. Because if I compare it to the Clearwater and Hikuleo match, this match was superior. It's the better version of the same match.
Right.
Except for the finish. But I mean, using 2 roll-ups on the same show when you only have 3 matches, that's lazy. No, like that's hands down. There's no other excuse for it. That's lazy. I don't like that. But Rosser ends up playing possum in the ring. Kratos goes up to him and he just gets rolled up.
Yeah.
Because of it. It is not exactly the same, but it's close enough. It's the same visual at the end of the match during the 1, 2, 3, right?
Right.
After the match, we get Hikuleo that comes out, just trashing Rosser around, throws him into the ring. Kratos hits Rosser one final move before leaving. And then Hikuleo gets into the ring to keep beating on Rosser. Hits the choke slam and keeps going for a little while. Saying he wants to take on Rosser in the first round, since they both qualified. So, I mean, this is Hikuleo trying to look strong and trying to be that monster and get his only big loss in a singles match back, right? So I enjoyed it. I feel like he's taking a page out of his brother's book. Definitely.
I think it's about time.
Yep.
Bullet Club time.
Bullet Club time. But ultimately, like, I was wondering why Kratos. I don't know if you guys agree with this one, but I was wondering why Kratos and Rosser were against each other in the first round, in the qualifiers, because I feel like both of these guys should have been part of the 8 men to be in the actual tournament. But then I realized that Kratos is NWA Tag Team Champion.
Yeah.
And NWA is reviving, so I was like, oh, never mind. I get it now.
He was just alone. He was just a loner. Yeah.
It's a little sad to know that I'm not going to be seeing Kratos as often, but like TJP's a loner from Impact, and we still get him fairly often, so you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like he's going to keep coming, though.
Probably. Yeah. Blue, do you have anything to say about the match?
No, I agree. Like having the same finish, they should have had like a DQ or something to keep. Because I mean, I know why they did the finish to keep Kratos looking like strong. But yeah, I agree with you. They should have done something different with that, especially being such a short show. No, I like how Kratos looks. He looks like this big biker dude. I know he's not like a biker guy, but that if I had to describe him one way, that's probably how I'd describe him. But yeah, it's a disappointment he couldn't be in the actual cup. Maybe it's just a way to maybe even things out. Yeah. And now Hikuleo's the biggest guy in the cup, at least that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So far.
So far, yeah. So that gives him some time to shine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, overall, like a good match. Just it's like you said, like the finish was eh.
Yeah, I think count out win would have been the right way to go, because the count out wins, in my opinion, are extremely underutilized in modern day wrestling.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you feel, if you guys feel like this, but like I said in the beginning, as far as the promos they did before the show, Rosser, of course, from what I thought, in my opinion, was that he did better than Kratos. But as far as the match goes, I think it was the other way around. I think Kratos did better than Rosser. And the reason I feel like that is because Rosser is one of those guys that, since he's from NXT or from the Performance Center kind of training, his training is kind of like, you tell him what to do and he'll do, okay, go step 1, step 2, step 3. And I think maybe that's why, Trevor, you feel like it's a repetitive, because I think he's just used to that. It's just like, do this, and then end the match. And I think that's why Kratos is different, because, I mean, he's not used to that. He's doing, like, he could improvise. I don't know if you guys agree, but
no, that could do it. That could be it. You're right.
I think
as you're saying it,
I think when it comes to certain performers, now I'm not going to say everybody, but when it comes to certain performers, if they're strictly a WWE, you know, like I said, it's different now, but prior to the NXT system, it was either the Ohio Valley system, the Mid South system, or that system, or FCW. I feel like the way that they wanted their guys in their system to wrestle was formulaic, and I think Fred Rosser, this is the first time in his career since being released several years ago where he's actually been able to kind of branch out and diversify his style a little bit more. I mean, wrestling is wrestling, but I don't know. For me, I feel like certain guys who come through the WWE system, you can clearly tell that that's the system that they know, and that's how they pace a match. That's how they form the match. Everything is always focused around the hard camera. Everything's always focused around doing certain things, where on the indies or in Japan or in Mexico, there's a lot of things that are emphasized differently. And for somebody like a Sami Zayn or TJP, you've wrestled all over the world, so you can adjust on the fly accordingly. Where I feel like a guy like Fred Rosser is still learning that. That's what
we're seeing that in Cardona as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Over on Impact.
Yeah,
because Impact, it still has a lot of the TV, and Impact borrows a lot of the same production style as WWE, of course, but it still has some of its uniqueness within it when it comes to its in-ring competition and its work rate style, in my opinion. So Cardona is slowly adjusting over there. But next week we're getting Brody King versus Bateman for a qualifying match.
Yeah.
Any predictions on that one? I'm saying Brody King because I feel like
it's yeah. Even though Bateman is really cool, I really like the guy, but Brody King, definitely.
If I was booking it, then Ren Narita versus Mysterio. And I feel like after the win, like JP was saying earlier, after the win versus Chris Dickinson, it has to be Narita, right?
Yeah, I feel like they're going to start slowly building him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to go far in the tournament, honestly. I don't think he's going to win it, but he's going to go far.
Yeah.
So now, transitioning over to New Japan Cup, round 2 and round 3. Like last week, we're just going to bring up one match each that we really enjoyed from the last week. Or at least primarily. Yeah. So, Jay, you want to take us through it?
Yeah, well, I definitely want to go after you, Trevor, because I want to mention something after the match you're going to talk about.
Oh, okay.
I think you're going to talk about this one, so I'm gonna go after you. So let's go ahead and start off with Blue. You want to start us off on one of the matches you thought was interesting?
Yeah, the match I selected for this week was Kenta versus Minoru Suzuki, and I even mentioned it last week that I was kind of excited for this match. Um, I I kind of skipped the event to this match because there's a lot of like mixed or six-man tags on the way, so I usually skip
Yeah.
to the tournament matches. And I got in the middle. I kind of jumped into the middle of Suzuki's entrance, and right away, Kenta's trying to play some mind games. He's like reading a newspaper while Suzuki's doing his thing, and you're just like, "What the heck is going?" Has he been doing this throughout the tournament? I don't think he has. This is the first time I've seen it.
It's the first time I
It
seen
was
it
the
too.
first time I didn't see him do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, I don't give a crap about your entrance. I'm just reading a newspaper.
Yeah.
It's just like the entire time is like, I'm just waiting for Suzuki to go over and stomp his head in. And they have this whole exchange with the newspaper. He swats it out of his hand, and Kenta runs. It was It felt like a Yano match because it's like because the way
great.
Kenta set it up. I don't know if he's trying to transition into more like mental game matches with the opponents or if it was just a one-off with Suzuki. It's interesting. I enjoyed it though, like the
Mhm.
setup because it's like, oh, you know who you want to go over, right? You know who you're rooting for, not the asshole that reads a newspaper during your entrance, especially for Suzuki's. So he's kind of downplaying it the whole time. I thought that was fairly entertaining. And then the match was pretty hard hitting. I mean, Suzuki beat the crap out of him outside for a good, I don't know, like 5 minutes of the match. Then they go back in. Pretty much, Kenta paid for his shenanigans. You got to see that. But I think the match pretty ended. I don't know how long the match was, honestly. I think it was about 15, 16 minutes when Kenta countered the Gotch style pile driver into a go to sleep, which I was sad to see Suzuki go and Kenta go over. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I just thought it was an interesting match, especially the way it started, where it's like, oh wow, they're kind of taking this almost comedic approach. And I don't know if he did this in the next round, but it was interesting to see it as a one-off. And I'm like, I wouldn't mind if Kenta started doing stuff like that and like again beating guys with countouts or just with shenanigans. And
Yeah.
another one gripe I'll say with this match, I think it suffered from the typical New Japan officiating, where it's like people are getting hit by chairs and Red Shoes is just there. Like, well,
He's like, eh.
and again, uh-huh.
No, yeah, no, it's an issue.
Yeah, and I will say I think New Japan's like I'll make an excuse for New Japan saying it's a tournament and they went, they kind of let them play kind of mindset, but they do it with with non-tournament matches either. It's not like it's right now they just have an excuse, but because they rarely
do it anyway.
Yeah, you rarely see a DQ finish in Japan.
Yeah.
Who wants? I guess Joe, you want to go next?
Yeah, definitely, Joe. Talk about yours because, like, Blue just talked about Suzuki versus Kenta. I definitely wanted on the next round. I wanted Suzuki to win because I wanted to see Suzuki versus Shingo, but we got Kenta versus Shingo, which you're going to talk about.
Well, for this match, Kenta was actually a lot more serious, which was shocking.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit more of a straightforward match. You could tell at this point in the tournament that fatigue is starting to set in. Like Kenta was not kicking as hard, and Shingo's pace slowed down a little bit, even though he was still extremely impressive, was still able to hit his Made in Japan. He was able to really show his power, and I think that's what was the difference maker in this match was his power was able to kind of overcome Kenta's size.
Yeah.
Like I said, Kenta at the end of the day does give up a lot of size now that he's a heavy. And you got a guy like Shingo who, for the longest time, he was a junior heavyweight, which I never bought into anyway. But like you are too fucking beefy, man. To be a junior. But the point is that like
no way. I agree with you. No way.
He's like, no way you're under 200 fucking pounds, dude. Give me a break.
He's he was like one of those high school football players that's like 6'6", 250 pounds. It's like, you're not a high school student, you're a man.
You're a grown-ass man.
You're a grown-ass man.
So the thing that I loved about it was that it was hard hitting nonetheless. And of course, Kenta was a little bit more serious in this tournament match. Couldn't really get away with a lot of the games that he did in the last round. Did lose the 1, 2, 3, which I was really happy to see. And I really, like I said, in my opinion, I think Shingo needs to be one of those guys they need to start pushing to the moon. I think he can be another fixture in the main event scene really soon here.
Yeah. I think he is going to be.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I truly hope so.
Can I say something about that I love about Shingo matches and watching in the Japanese commentary? So, you know how last week we were talking about Japanese commentary and it's kind of, it sucks to have it that the English one kind of takes like a day or two to pull up.
Yeah.
Like what I've noticed a lot with Japanese commentary, it's usually Miliano Collection AT. He's one of the commentators. And he's like, "Oh, so this one." Like he's just saying, "Oh, I agree with you." Like I don't know what the other one's saying, but he always goes, "Oh, so this one." Like he's just saying, I agree with you. I agree with you. But what I love that they do is whenever Shingo uses a pumping bomber, they just go pumping bomber.
Oh yeah.
I wish the English commentators would be that excited for pumping bombers because that's what makes me love watching Shingo matches. I'm just waiting. And this time during the match he had, I don't think it was this one with Kenta. His second round match. They both got it like simultaneously, and it was a pumping bomber. You just see like Shingo take somebody's head off, and I'm like, oh man, that's the only time I want to watch Japanese commentary with.
When they scream like that.
I'll take all the soda soon I need to hear that one pumping bomber.
Yeah, it's definitely cool when they say that. But something else that's cool. Let's go ahead and transition to Trevor now, which is really cool. And to me, it was a beautiful match. The Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ospreay.
Yeah. Okay, so at times, I like to describe wrestling as athletic performance art. Mm-hmm. And I think this match kind of fits that description. Because it felt choreographed, but not choreographed. Kind of like if you're watching, honestly, I can only compare this to something like watching a ballet recital.
Yeah.
And these two guys have that history where they've done this match 1,000 times at this point. Like, how often have Sabre and Ospreay faced each other? Like, it's ridiculous, right? Like,
so many, yeah.
You can't even think of it. Like, the number's insane, but like JP had brought up, this is the first time that, well, at least in Japan, this is the first time we've gotten to see it with Ospreay as the heel and Sabre as more of a face. And I really enjoyed it. The back and forth, the technical aspect from Sabre trying to doing everything he can to ground Ospreay. Ospreay still managing to pull off some of that high flying stuff. Not even needing that much of it. His high flying strikes alone, the crazy spin kicks and everything, like Ospreay is just he's going next level right now. He's always been good. This is like I feel like he could win it this year. I'm not sure about that yet, but like, man.
Yeah.
So Ospreay does go over on Sabre. And I will say that it was he uses the Stormbreaker, I believe, to win.
Yeah.
I believe that's the name of his move. I always forget. Okay. And anyway, I just want to say, like, this felt like when Ospreay got up after the pin, I don't know, to me it felt almost like this was like the ending of a chapter between those two.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was an ending of an epic story between the two of them. That if you've been a fan of these two and you've been following these two across the world, then you'd probably be feeling a hell of a lot of satisfaction after this.
It was the color added, I think, to it too. The color on Ospreay.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, you're right.
And I was trying to pinpoint exactly when it happened that he hurt his nose, that he broke it, and I think it was after the Mystica, I think. Am I correct?
I'm not sure when it happened. I'll be honest.
Yeah, because I kept replaying it. It's like, when did he break his nose? And I think it was when the Mystica happened, because that's the move where he kind of does a kind of a, what is it, like a tornado DDT kind of into like a DDT, well, to a like an arm bar, but then it kind of face plants him into he
Okay.
kind of face plants into the mat. I think
Yeah,
that's when it happened. Yeah. So
I'm
I
trying
think
to
that
remember what that's
it
called,
happened.
that type of DDT. But yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think that's when it happened, and but definitely it added to it, and I thought it was really cool, getting that color just by accident, and it definitely added to the match.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny how when it happens by accident, it actually kind of just always escalates the match and always makes it
Yeah,
feel better.
yeah,
Well, we know it's a spot and we know it's bladed. We're just like, oh, okay, that's cool.
yeah.
Oh, but I don't really have much else to say about this match other than like
It's a great match.
Osprey and Saber is just
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's a never-ending story.
yeah. See, and Trevor, the reason I wanted to go after you to talk about my match, because the match I wanted to talk about was Yano versus Grado Khan.
Yeah.
And Yano versus Grado Khan, I mean, it's pretty much what you expect from Yano, is just his tomfoolery. He's just, joking around, going outside the ring, coming back inside. He's going back out. They have a little, the Grado Khan kind of overpowers him. So that's just pretty much what's happening throughout the match. But then the reason I wanted to talk about it is because what the Grado Khan did kind of to put Yano over, and I think was a big mistake though, because the Grado Khan, what he did is he was gonna like he was trying to grab Yano, but kind of Yano ducks down, and then I'm sorry, Grado Khan falls outside the ring, and then he hits the guardrail, and then his hair is kind of like over the guardrail, so Yano grabs it, and then Yano kind of ties it around the guardrail.
Yeah.
And then he ties it around the guardrail, and then Grado Khan can't get back in the ring, and he's having all these problems, and then he cuts it. He cuts his hair, which is like kind of like a, I don't know, like a long, what would you call it? Like a dread, I guess.
Long
Ponytail.
braids.
The long braid, yeah.
Braid.
So he cuts it, which is weird too. I don't know why he's cutting his hair, because that's a big deal in of course lucha, cutting somebody's hair. But he cut his hair, and then he goes back into the ring, and then Yano kind of do some back and forth, and he kind of tricks him, and he kind of sweeps his foot, and then he pins him, and then he pins somebody from the United Empire. So to me, him losing, like United Empire, to me at this point is a big joke now, because Jeff Cobb's losing, Grado Khan's losing, Osprey won, but then how we just talked about the color in his, that he broke his nose. Now he's using it as a gimmick now throughout his matches, kind of like a jokey thing. And so United Empire, I think right now it's not looking good for me. Like I was really hopeful for, yeah. So I was really hopeful for Osprey, because I really love Osprey, but like I said, United Empire, it's not great for them.
No, you're right. Now, after you put it all into perspective, I'm not feeling too great about it either.
Yeah.
I think one of the saving graces would be Osprey taking tournament. I like the build up with Osprey and Kota, because it goes back to Wrestle Kingdom 3 years ago, where he beat him for the Never Openweight Championship by knocking him into next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I don't think he uses the hidden blade as much anymore, or at least he doesn't go as hard, because he just knocked poor Kota out. That was crazy. But he has a knockout finish over Kota, which is the double champion. So if he were to win the New Japan Cup, that storyline going into Dominion or whatever the next pay-per-view is going to be, Grand Slam might be the next pay-per-view. I think that's just a good natural storyline for both Kota to get his closure, or Osprey to just elevate himself to be like, yeah, I'm a leader and I won the New Japan Cup. This is where I am. But there's so many guys left that I want to see succeed, like Sonata, Shingo, and it's like,
Yoshihashi.
Yoshihashi. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick who you want, because New Japan Cup, I think it's not as it's always been less predictable than, I'd say. I mean, G1's pretty good, but usually you'll see who's going to do well in the G1 and go on to main event. I think now that they made it 2 nights, it's less predictable, but the New Japan Cup, I mean, anybody can win that and get a shot at the title. It's not a guaranteed like main event at Wrestle Kingdom, but I think it's a good way to push some guy. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say definitely that see what's gonna transpire on the 20th and the 21st. You guys want to give your predictions, Trevor, JP, and Blue?
Well, the
because
matches are going to be Evil versus Shingo.
Yeah.
And then Ospreay versus Finlay, right?
Finlay. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Evil versus Shingo is hard for me to tell, but I think they're going to go with Evil, honestly.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I already said it, I think it's Ospreay, and then I think Ospreay will go over on Evil.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping anyway. That's what I think.
JP?
My heart says Shingo and Ospreay in the end,
Mm-hmm.
but I can see the logic between Evil and Ospreay with Ospreay going over. You know, because long-term storybooking, you can kind of be like, okay, Evil, Ospreay in the final, Ospreay goes over. Ospreay is one of the few men that Kota Ibushi has never beaten. And the last time they competed against each other, well, we all know what happened with the Hidden Blade and him knocking Ibushi out.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of poses Will Ospreay as a legitimate threat to Kota Ibushi. However, my heart wants it to be Takagi and Ospreay, Takagi going over, and then Takagi posing. Basically, I think this is going to would potentially be his first time challenging for the IWGP Heavyweight title, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it'll be a strong showing. I want Takagi to win, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think in Evil is going to find a way to get over, and it'll be him and Ospreay in the final.
Yeah. What do you think, Blue?
I think it's gonna be Evil versus Takagi. I think Takagi's gonna go over. Actually, I feel the opposite to you guys. I don't think they're gonna go heel at the final because the Evil and Ospreay are both heels. At least in New Japan standards. So I think David Finlay's not gonna, nothing against David. He beat Jay White. I think that's pretty great, but he's not gonna beat Ospreay. I think Ospreay is almost guaranteed a final spot, and then I think Shingo.
Impact Tag Champ. He doesn't need to win. He's Impact Tag Champ.
You're like, you take that back.
Yeah. Hey, well, does that mean if Ospreay beats him, does that mean Ospreay gets a tag title match with a partner versus?
Only if his partner beats Juice. Only if partner of his choice beats Juice.
But yeah, no, I think they're gonna go face with Shingo and heel with Ospreay. And I mean, Shingo and Ospreay have their history in tournaments where I think, in the Best of the Super Juniors, Will Ospreay won in the finals against Shingo, and then in the G1, I don't know, I think Shingo beat Ospreay, so they're 1-1. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys remember. But this will be like their rubber match, pretty much for the second victory. So I think that's the best setup for a final, Shingo versus Ospreay. And then, unfortunately, as much as I love Shingo and I want him to do great, and I want to yell "Pumping Bomber," I think it's going to be Ospreay, just because it's if you're going into Dominion or you're going into a Tokyo Dome show like the Grand Slam coming up in May, you're gonna want that natural storyline. And I think him and Kota, you can do a lot more with that than Shingo and Kota, because Shingo and Kota haven't even interacted that much. If I'm honest with you, I can't remember them having any matches. They might have in the G1 once or twice, but I think Ospreay and Kota is the grudge match. And if they're gonna do it in the Dome, I think that'd probably be. I agree, that'd probably be the best setup.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna go different than you guys. I'm just gonna say Evil versus Finlay. And then Finlay going over just to be different, and because I want Finlay to win now.
Juice on top of the world.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's see what's gonna happen on the 21st.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts, Trevor?
Well, the last thing I wanted to bring up with you guys was about Finn Juice being Impact Tag Team Champions.
Yeah.
We had it on Impact this week that Scott D'Amore has confirmed that they will be defending the Impact Tag titles in Japan. So and they're gonna the champions are supposed to come back for, I believe, they didn't specify when in April, but they will be back for Rebellion, which is the next actual pay-per-view for Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
Where do you guys see this storyline? Like, do you guys have any input on this? Like, are you guys excited to see the Impact tag belts? They're pretty belts, but
they're pretty belts. I'll let one of you guys go first.
What do you think, JP?
I would have much rather preferred, honestly, the Good Brothers keep those titles in order for them to be a centerpiece with their ongoing rivalry against the Young Bucks in AEW. That would have been a lot more interesting. I mean, either way, that rivalry is still going to be happening. They're going to be prominently featured on AEW for the foreseeable future. But it does make it interesting that now FinJuice are now Impact Tag Team Champions, and hopefully that kind of creates a lot more possibilities of other tag teams within New Japan and Impact going back and forth. I hope that's a possibility. We'll have to wait and see. So I'm kind of just I thought it was an interesting. I didn't hate that it happened. I think it's interesting if they do it well going forward in terms of booking and what kind of obstacles you can place in the way of FinJuice. It could be really interesting with those titles.
When it comes to the Dynamite thing with the Good Brothers, I just want to say, right now I feel like it's either they're tag champions, we're not on TV, we're not on Impact, and we're over on AEW with the tag belts, or because they're going into a major feud right now, like major storyline feuds on Dynamite. So they're going to be actually wrestling on Dynamite actively every week for a little bit now.
Yeah, that's logical sense.
Or they drop it to FinJuice, and FinJuice brings it to Japan, and Impact gets some eyes in Japan. So I mean, yeah, I think it was the right call in the end. We'll see what kind of matches New Japan books with it.
Yeah, and I think if they do it right, it could be very interesting, and I think it could be a lot of fun with what they do. But they got to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because see, I think it's cool that everybody, of course, is going to everybody's shows, and it's a cool collaboration between everybody. But I mean, I heard a lot of people saying otherwise. A lot of people are saying that that the big hardcore fans, Impact fans, and AEW fans, and New Japan fans are just sticking with their products. And if that's the case, I mean, you're probably doing all this stuff just doesn't really have any long-term effects or long-term interest.
I think you need to play the long con with something like this. Yeah. WWE has had a monopoly for 20, 25 years. The current modern day fan is brainwashed to literally only watch one promotion and to watch 15 hours a week from that one. You want wrestling? We have 15 hours a week of wrestling. You don't need to go anywhere else. Just stay here.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are conditioned to not look elsewhere. So even when you do watch Impact, you'll leave WWE and you'll start watching Impact, or you'll start watching New Japan. You stick to one. I agree. But if you commit to this long term, I think it'll pay off. You'll start seeing payoff within a year or two.
Yeah.
Like major payoffs.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is just kind of like getting in good terms with the companies, and then eventually maybe there'll be a talent exchange. I know with New Japan and Impact there was a big divide, or there was a big like separation between the two companies after Impact mistreated. I think it was Sonata and Okada when they had them. To think they had both Sonata and Okada like in 2012 or sometime, and New Japan kind of broke off from them after that, but. If they can get them excursions or temporary, some of the upcoming wrestlers temporary spots there, that's kind of what I would like to see. And then they borrow some wrestlers from Impact the same way, like have a couple of X Division guys go over for Best of the Super Juniors. They don't have to,
Oh God, yes, Chris Bay, cool. Ace Austin.
Yeah, they don't have to win every match. They did it with some CMLL guys, but Chris Bay, Ace Austin, even for the G1, right? If you want to diversify a little bit,
Sammy
Callahan,
Callahan versus Suzuki, man. Oof.
Which has happened in a tag match.
It has happened, but I want to see it in a one-on-one in a tournament.
Oh, sure. Like they've hinted at it, but it didn't really happen. It happened at a WrestleCon a couple years ago.
But what I think, Trevor, though, because AAA is still working with Impact, right? Because I seen Taurus still there.
Black Barus is there right now.
And I don't know how that's gonna work with CMLL working with New Japan. Like I think might get into some crazy situations there because I know CMLL and AAA really like hate each other.
Oh yeah, that's blood feud stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know how that's gonna.
That's going back, I think, almost a century at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, CML has been around for a while.
Oof.
I mean, it is the longest running organized wrestling promotion in the world.
Yeah. So I don't know how if everyone's gonna play nice when things get a little mixed up more into them later, but
I will say this: it's just like when it comes to a lot of fans being indoctrinated to just being like, well, WWE is the only show in town. I do think that is ultimately changing because if it didn't change, there would be no room for an AEW. There wouldn't even be any room for New Japan to expand in the American market. Even if New Japan doesn't have the biggest corner of the American market, the point is they do have a cornerstone in the American market.
Yeah.
5 years ago, that wasn't even a thing. It wasn't. Yeah. People, I think over time, people got really disenfranchised with the monopoly the WWE had, and people were like, all right, well, what the hell else is out there, And
here's a great example of that, man. Here's a great example of that. We went to a local indie show that had Brian Cage was the advertised wrestler, and at the time he was the X Division champion. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, my cousin that we brought with us had. He's a big wrestling fan, but he only watches WWE. And he's like seeing a picture of Brian Cage, and he's just like, okay, cool, I guess. He's a champion from another promotion. Right? Like, to him, like, he's like, why should I care? WWE's the best wrestling, right? Like, we were going to a local indie show. He expected to see, like, the most dinky, terrible, bullshit wrestling you've ever seen. And I'm like, dude, this company is one of the best promotions in the Maritimes when it comes to like putting on a show. Like, no, these guys, this is good shit. Like, and it ended up that was when Brian Cage essentially broke his back.
Yeah.
So he couldn't come, and we got Eli Drake instead.
Yeah.
And Eli Drake in a triple threat wrestling for this little place's world title. Wrestled like if he was in a main event on Impact TV. Gave us the same caliber he would have. And by the end, like, my cousin was looking at us like, holy shit. Like, he saw some stuff from some of the local guys that blew his mind. And he saw Eli Drake, and he's just like, he heard Eli Drake talk, and he's just like almost this, why is he not in WWE? Look in on his face, right? Like, I'm like, because WWE is not the be-all, end-all. Like, at the time, that was my, like, Eli Drake in WWE was like a never gonna fucking happen to me at the time. Here we are. Mm-hmm. LA Knight. But
LA Knight, yeah.
Little story to end the episode there. Jay, you want to plug away?
Sure thing. Follow us, Tiger Driver Radio. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Facebook, Instagram, just Tiger Driver Radio. Twitter, we're under Tiger Driver Rad1. That's RAD1. Just follow us. We're getting excited because next weekend, not this weekend, but the following weekend, we're going to start our first show, and hopefully it's going to hit maybe the last week of March, going into April. So that's going to be cool. All
right. So keep an eye on Tiger Driver Radio, guys. They do a lot to help us out over here on New Japan, on the New Japan recaps. So when it comes to us, as always, our next episode is going to be Impact recaps on Tuesday morning. Then we have AEW recaps on Wednesday morning. And join us here again next week for New Japan recaps on Friday morning. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We're very small, only starting out. Everything helps. Thank you very much, and have a good one, guys.